everyone, my name is Karen, this is my channel RatherBeReading, and today I'm bringing to you a recent reads video. It has been a week since I last checked in with you guys. In the past week I've read 5 books, but I do have 6 to talk about because I also DNF'd another book. So kind of a slower week for me. I think on average I read between 6 and 8 books a week, it seems. It's kind of what I've gathered since I've started filming these recent reads videos. But I was on leave from work on Thursday and Friday this week for my birthday, and so I didn't listen to any audiobooks on those 2 days, so I probably would have got through 1 or possibly 2 more if I had been at work those days, but I wasn't. So I finished 5, DNF'd another. So let's talk about all of the books that I did manage to complete this far. Well, complete and DNF this past week. So the first book I want to talk about is Faking Perfect by Rebecca Phillips. So this was a reread for me. I originally read this book from NetGalley several years ago. I really enjoyed it at the time and purchased my own copy of it so that I could support. I quite often, if I really, anything from like 4 to 5 stars that I get from NetGalley, I will generally purchase my own copy of, because I like to try and support, because a lot of the books that I get from NetGalley are lesser known books, and so I do try to support the authors and the publishers by purchasing my own copy of the book if it is something that I like genuinely enjoyed, as this one was. And so that was a couple of years ago, and I wanted to reread this. I was just really in the mood for this book. Sometimes, you know, I'm not generally a mood reader, but sometimes, you know, you do just get a hankering. And one of my cats now, oh no, she's given up on the scratching post. So this is a YA contemporary novel. It's kind of YA bordering on like new adult almost, because the characters are kind of at that very end stage of high school, kind of contemplating what they're going to do with their future. There's a little bit of that going on. So it's basically about a character named Lexi, who has been in since I think the beginning of the school year, she's been in a sexual relationship with kind of the bad boy from school, but it's a secret relationship. It's purely sexual. She uses it as a release to deal with some of the issues that she's got going on in her life. There's, you know, no one's allowed to know about it. They're not allowed to, you know, talk to each other outside of their, you know, interactions. And she has always had a crush on one of her male best friends. Things start to get complicated when Ben, her male friend, starts to maybe return Lexi's interest, and then also Tyler, the bad boy that she's having a sexual relationship with, is starting to make the relationship a little bit more complicated, and Lexi's starting to get the feeling that maybe he is having more feelings than her. And so that is what this book is about. So I thought I'd given this 4.5. I checked my rating and my review from when I read it, and I gave this 4.25. I stand by that rating. I really enjoyed this. It sounds like your pretty typical like contemporary novel, and it is, but I think it deals pretty well with a lot of issues. And it's not, none of the characters are like clean-cut, cookie-cutter type of characters. They're all, you know, really nuanced characters with their own issues, and, you know, no one's what they seem on the surface. Everyone's got their own issues and their own little idiosyncrasies and all of those things. I like that Lexi is dealing with complicated issues in her life. She has a very complicated family life. Her father's never been in the picture. Her mother is not the best mother. She's got a male best friend, not the one who she's got a crush on, a different male best friend. I really loved that friendship. I really like the romance in this. My main thing that I think I always have loved about this book is that there's no virginalizing of the main character, which not so much anymore, but back when I first read this, and for a long time, and still somewhat today, was very prevalent in YA of virginalizing main characters and making them have to be, for them to be a good character, they had to be pure, and it to be, you know, for them to have a crush on a boy and want him to be the first boy that they were ever with. And I just don't think it's realistic to real life, and there's none of that in this book. Lexi is having a sexual relationship with a boy from her school, and he's not the first boy that she's had a sexual relationship with, and there's never any like, she's perfectly happy with that. She's never the type of thing who's like, oh, I wish I'd saved my first time for this guy that I've got a crush on, or any of that stuff. And it does like look at her using like sex as a release and whether that can be a healthy thing, and you know, and her having sex for the sake of having sex because she enjoys sex, and that not necessarily that not being a bad thing. So I just think that this is really handles a lot of issues really, really well. And like I said, I originally gave this 4.25 stars and I stand by that rating. Now we come to my DNF, which was The Last Black Unicorn by Tiffany Haddish. So this is a memoir from Tiffany Haddish, who is a, if you don't know, an actress, like comedian. I actually don't really know Tiffany Haddish that well. I don't think I've ever seen anything that she's been in. But I'd heard, you know, about this audiobook. I just kind of recognized it, and when my library had it in, I thought I'd give it a go. I listened to 48% of it, so almost halfway through before I decided to give up on it. I don't know how to talk about this book without it seeming like I'm being really pretentious. I found this book to be incredibly shallow. Like I said, I don't know Tiffany Haddish. I'm sure she's a great actress, and I have heard that her comedy is really hilarious. This just really didn't vibe with me. Like I said, I found it to be extremely shallow. She's talking about her life in the first half, like from when she's quite young and some issues that she's had. All of that was fine, but she talks just a lot about like her relationships, and everything seems to be very appearance based, and you know, she just talks a lot about jobs that she had when she was growing up, and just like how amazing of a dancer she is, and how she was always so funny and everyone loved her, and she's the best, and she's the best at everything she's ever done, and blah blah blah. And I don't know, I just really wasn't, there was no, it's not humble, and it's not necessarily that someone has to be humble, I guess, but I don't know, I couldn't connect with her story. Then we came to a point in the novel where she's discussing a relationship that she had with a handicapped man, and I really had a problem with the way that was dealt with, particularly I think due to the audiobook. Tiffany Haddish narrates the audiobook herself, and she puts on a voice for this handicapped person that I found quite offensive. And then just the way that she was speaking about him, and she basically straight up says that like she ends up having a sexual encounter with him that she really enjoys, and then she basically straight out says that she dumps him because she didn't want to Winifred sorry guys, that she didn't want to her friends to know that she was dating a handicapped person, and she could never go out with him in public and all of that stuff. And so that's why she like breaks up with him, even though he's a really great guy and she enjoyed the sexual encounter that she had. And I already had a problem with the way that she was relaying him in the book, and I do feel like she was kind of trying to say that that wasn't maybe the right thing, and that she's grown as a person since this encounter, but it didn't come across well enough for me, and I found it really offensive, if I'm being honest. So I just was like, I'm not really enjoying this book. I don't care about continuing with it too much, because it's not like Tiffany Haddish is a person that I really love, and I really want to know how she got to be where she is. So I just decided to leave that one there and move on to a new audiobook the next day. So I did DNF that one. The next book that I finished is Someone Else's Love Story by Joshua Jackson. So Joshua Jackson, if you don't know, is an author that I read her book, The Almost Sister, I think it was last year or even the year before, and really, really loved. And so I've basically gone back and I've been trying to read most of her back catalogue, and this is the next books of hers that I had to read. So this one is about a woman who has a young son, I think he's 3 or 4, at the start of the... Sorry, Charles was about to jump in front of the camera as well. She has a young son, and they are moving from, had lived in quite a rural area with her mother, and they are moving to a more, like, into the city to live with her father. And when they are en route in that trip, they stop at a gas station, and she goes into the gas station with her son, and the gas station is held up. And there's a man in the gas station who steps between the gunman and her son. And she immediately falls in love with this guy because of that interaction. So it sounds really cheesy, really insta-lovey, but it's so much deeper than that, as all of Joshua Jackson's books are. I really liked how all of the characters' relationships and interactions and how complicated they all are. It's also had something that happened towards the end that I hadn't connected in my head, and I didn't see it coming, like when it was kind of revealed. It's not like a twist or anything, but something happened and I was like, oh, I hadn't picked up on that, which I probably should have, but that doesn't bother me because I like being shocked in my books. So I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, even though I did really enjoy it, because there's one thing that happens towards the end that I thought was going too much towards redeeming something that had happened. And while it's not that I don't think that things like that can happen, it's that I don't necessarily think that it's the right message to put across in this type of story. Now Giles is going to use the scratching post. This video is a mess. So yeah, that is the main issue that I had with it, but I did for the most part really enjoy the book, but I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, like I said. Next I read Beautiful Malice by Rebecca James. So Rebecca James is an Australian author, and this is I think it's classed as YA, but again, really on the cusp of like YA, because the characters are kind of in high school, and I think they in fact finish high school and then are like kind of leading into what they're going to do with their adult lives again in this. But this is a thriller novel. So it's basically about a girl who has moved to she's in a new school, and under mysterious circumstances, we know that she's changed her name and that something has happened that she's kind of trying to run from. She makes a friendship with the like really popular, beautiful girl at her school who is really like enigmatic and all of that, and it's kind of about their friendship and how it enters this really kind of toxic place, and all of that, and then also trying to discover the secrets of the main character's past and everything that's going on with that. I quite enjoyed this. Toxic female friendships is one of my favorite things to read about. This didn't quite get there for me in that, but I did like seeing it because for the most part, I think I love reading it because I in myself have been in some toxic friendships in my life, and I love seeing how easily, because you think, like, when I look back on my toxic friendships that I have, I think, why did I put up with that type of behavior? But it's almost like, I guess, this is a really bad comparison, and I don't want to be offensive, but it's like almost like an abusive relationship. It didn't start out like that. It didn't start out bad, and you kind of get conditioned to accepting certain things in a friendship. And when a person is so fun and, you know, everyone loves them, and then they want to be friends with you, and then, you know, so you're so excited just to have them as your friend, and everything's great at the start, and they make you feel, you know, like a great person, and you're having fun all of the time, and you can't believe that they want to be your friend. And especially if you are in a situation where you don't have many friends, or you're really lonely, so you can kind of, like, that's what this book deals with, and you can see kind of how you could end up in that situation. I liked that so it's pretty predictable for the most part, this novel, but I say I really enjoyed the themes and everything in it. It is very easy, quick reading, like very addictive, like page turning type of book. In the end, I gave this 3.75 stars. Next, I listened on audio to a book called Starcrossed by Minnie Drake, who I have not, oh, I was gonna say I haven't written down the narrator, but I know who it was. The narrator is Melissa George, who is an Australian actress. I'm trying to think what she's been in, because she's like an Australian actress who has had success overseas. I know she was in Alias for a while, and she was in, I feel like she was in Grey's Anatomy maybe. Anyway, you might know who I'm talking about. She's the narrator of this book. So this is a like adult women's contemporary, kind of a chick lit novel, kind of very rom-com-y type of book. So it's about a woman who, or like a young woman, she's, you know, in her early to mid 20s, and she works for this magazine. And she runs one day into like kind of her old like childhood sweetheart, like type of person who she was like best friends with all growing up. They had some romantic interactions, haven't seen each other in quite a few years. And he is not obsessed, but he follows the horoscopes really closely, particularly the horoscopes put out by her magazine that she works for, because there's this really prolific like astrologist or whatever who writes for her magazine. And so he follows the stars, and she thinks that when they have this encounter that this is going to lead to them reconnecting and having this new romance. And when that doesn't happen the way that she thinks it's going to, she ends up, she's in a position where she can tweak the horoscopes. And so she starts to tweak the horoscope for this guy that she's reconnected with in an attempt to try draw him towards her and trying to spark something. And then obviously that starts to unravel and everything gets complicated, and the more she does it, the more she has to do it, and things aren't going the way that she wants them to, and it all gets very, very complicated. So for the most part, this was really enjoyable, very rom-com. Like I could easily see this being a movie. I did really enjoy it. I enjoyed both of the two kind of main characters. Really enjoyed it. The only real problem that I had with this was kind of right at the end. There's, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there was something that happened, like a decision that the main character makes right towards the end that I just thought was ridiculous. Up until that point, you can kind of buy everything that's happened, but then she does something and I was just like, that's just dumb. No adult would make that decision. Like there was so, and not even because you can kind of see how, you know, things can spiral, and once you've started to lie about something, you get stuck in it. But there were so many easier choices that the character could have made that would have got her out of that situation with almost no repercussions. And instead she does this big, ridiculous thing that I was just like, why? It was just dumb. So to me, that felt very much just like the author like uses a plot device, but it didn't feel like authentic to the story, or like authentic to what the characters would actually do in real life, if you know what I mean. So that kind of ruined things a little bit for me at the end, but for the most part, very, very enjoyable book. I ended up giving that 3.5 stars. And then finally, the last book I want to talk about is A Danger to Herself and Others by Alyssa B. Schienmal. So this is a book that I was approved for on NetGalley, so I did receive the e-arc from NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. This is a YA mental health contemporary book. It's basically about a girl who, at the start of the novel, is entering a mental health facility because there's been some kind of altercation with her roommate. So she is in summer school before I think her final year of high school. She is in this like summer college program to get like extra credits because she's very smart and ahead of everything and like got all these college credits and all of that. And she has a roommate while she's there, and the roommate has had an accident, but we don't know exactly what happened, but we know that due to that she has ended up in this mental health facility. That's basically what this book is about. So when I was reading this and like when I finished it, originally I was like, yeah, it was okay, I guess it would be like a 3-star. Thinking about it more, I have more and more problems with it the more that I think about it. One, I did think the story dragged. I didn't connect to the story at all. I was really kind of plodding my way through it because just not a lot happens. We're just literally with this character in this mental health facility who is very much in isolation for a lot of it. So you're just really with this character and their thoughts and everything, and it's not super interesting, honestly. So I already was like, no, it wasn't fantastic, but you know, average, run-of-the-mill, maybe 3 stars. I've ended up giving it a 2.5 stars because one of the main issues that I have with this book, like upon reflection after finishing it, is I don't understand what the purpose of this novel was. It is supposed to be a mental health novel, but the author acknowledges, and fair play to her, she acknowledges it at the end of the book, like in the author's note or whatever it is, that she's taken liberties with the way that mental health facilities work to like work for her story, and that this isn't necessarily the way things would happen in real life. This is maybe minor spoilery, so if you don't want to hear any thought, like anything at all about what maybe happens, I'm not going to give massive plot points, but if you don't want to hear anything about like what kind of goes on towards the end of this book, just skip ahead until the picture of the book goes away. The main character gets no real diagnosis, and it's not that she doesn't get it, the reader doesn't get it. We actually don't ever get told this is what's wrong like with her. She gets a diagnosis, but we don't know what it is. And I'm like, so what are you trying to represent in this novel? What is the point of this novel if you're trying to show good representation for a particular mental health issue? You got to tell us what it is so that we know that what you're trying to represent, but she doesn't do it. And then on top of that, like I said, with it not actually being accurate to what would ever happen in this type of situation, I don't understand what the point of the book was. If you're trying to write a mental health novel with mental health representation, you need to do better. I'm sorry. I just don't think that this book... So like I said, when I started to really think about the book like today, when I was literally writing my notes, So I finished this yesterday. When I was writing my notes today prior to filming this video, I started to realize, no, I really had some problems with this book. So I thought about bringing it down to a 2.5 star, but based on how annoyed I'm feeling about it right now, and I really, really think this book has problems, I'm giving it 2 stars. I just don't think that, I don't know what the purpose of this book was, and I think that it could be potentially harmful, I guess, because it isn't accurate, but what's it not accurate to, I guess, because we don't even really know what's wrong with the character. So yeah, 2 stars. So that's it. Those are the books that I've read or DNF'd in the past week. I would love to chat with you guys in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, if you've got any thoughts on them, or what you guys have been reading and liking or reading and hating in the past week. I would love to know. Please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more from my channel. That is all I have for this video today. Bye guys.